Welcome back to the Enricher Business Circle, the podcast where leaders building businesses with purpose, passion, and impact. I'm your host, Rickdrieka Bennett, and in a world that often asks us to separate our personal beliefs from our professional lives, my guest today is a testament to the power of integrating your whole self into your work. He is the president of Element 502, a leader with over 20 years of experience in marketing and technology. And he describes his incredible career as a spirit led adventure. Please give a warm welcome to Bill Reynolds. Bill, welcome.
Thanks, Rickdrieka. Good to be here.
I am super excited about this conversation as many know that I have a background in marketing. So that's one of my favorite episodes to actually have a conversation around. But when it comes to the podcast, many of our listeners love to hear about the beginnings, the origins, or the story of how things got started. So, could you share a bit about your last 20 years in marketing and technology and what really inspired you to kind of pursue that path?
Sure. So marketing for me, I'm a data and analytics guy. I am not a creative on marketing. So you don't want me to design anything. You don't want me to do any graphic design. I'm very functional in what I do. I'm functional in the clothes that I pick out, other things. I can see colors, I can see patterns. That's not my gift. That's not my forte. So looking at from a data standpoint, I've been a computer programmer working around technology forever, since I was very, very young. My dad was a big proponent of tech. And so he got me started at a very young age as personal computers were just coming into the marketplace, because this is probably 1979, 1980, whenever people actually started getting more and more computers for their homes. My dad was an early adopter, and so always been around technology. And as I went through my career, seeing how marketing, being able to measure, being able to use data to be able to see how things are working, was something that was always appealing. And so over the years, that's what I've played around with different ways, and in the last 10 as Element 502.
I love it. And don't feel bad because I one thing I can say as a person who is a creative, the data and the analytics really helped me to shape my creative forecast when I'm
Mhm.
actually looking at things. So your part of marketing is very essential for those who are creatives. So
Thank
I
you. Thank
definitely
you.
love it. And it just gels together. So
Mhm.
with your Element 502, what how did that get started?
That's kind of a fun story. So I back 2014, I was consulting for a company
Mhm.
they were a marketing company. They had purchased a couple of other smaller companies to try to make a larger marketing company. And the owner at the
Okay.
time was having trouble integrating all three of those people together, because he
Ooh.
kept owners on, he kept other entrepreneurs on, and so he needed some help. He hired me to come in, help some operations and just overall communication effectiveness. Just a lot of nuts and bolts stuff inside the company. I did that. Did it well. And in 2015, he said, "Hey, you've done a great job. Would you want to be the president of this company?" I said, "Well, let's talk about that." And we did. So he seated me as president. And then a couple of months later, what I hadn't realized was that the company was not as profitable as I thought it was. He had been
Mhm.
putting some of his own money into it, to keep it afloat. Was hoping that we were going to get further down the pipe, but that did not happen. I did not know all that whenever I was hired on. So we were faced with a dilemma of what were we going to do next.
Mhm.
And my wife, so I went to my wife and I told her what was going on, and she said, "Well, what do you think you're going to do? Like, how's this going to work out for you?" I said, "I don't know. You should go pray about it." So she went and prayed about it, and I went and prayed about it. And a couple of days later, she came to me and she said, I got some bad news. I was like, "Well, what's the bad news?" She said, "I really think the Lord's telling us to buy this company." And I said, "Well, I have worse news." And she said, "Well, what's the worst news?" I said, "Well, I've been hearing the same thing." So we ended up doing an asset purchase of a company that wasn't in the best of shape at the time. I
Mhm.
got some investment and some business partners to come in with me, and so that was May of 2015, and here we are 10-ish years later, still in business, still just chugging away. So
Oh
that's how
wow.
we got to here. Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely an amazing story, especially if you go into a situation blind and then out of the blindness, it's like you agree to accept the blindness to,
Exactly.
to work
Yes.
through. um, so with that, and it definitely sounds like your phrase spirit led adventure, what
Hmm.
which is very fascinating. Could you elaborate on how your faith and intuition has really kind of guided you through that profession and that decision even more? Because I know it took a lot of walking out on faith for both you and your wife to accept that, hey, we need to buy a company that we
Hmm.
didn't expect to be in this current state.
That's correct. And then the other part about that was just it hasn't been all great. I mean, there's been some struggles in there. There's been some downs, some really low downs, and some good ups too. So it happens on both sides. And I always tell people we're a company that runs with Christian values. We're not a Christian company. And the difference is that I think a lot of times people will put a Jesus fish on a business card, or they'll put a Bible verse somewhere, but that's different than walking it out and living it out. We work with all kinds of different people. It's not one of the first questions I ask isn't like, where do you go to church or something like that? It's just treating people like they are people, and treating your business like it's my business. So being a good steward of that. And then our employees, just treating them as real people and setting up an environment that works a little differently than some other companies that may have worked out in the past. So all of that together, and then the guy, and the Lord is faithful. He gives me many opportunities to seek Him again to make sure I'm on the right path, and put some adversity and obstacles up every now and then.
I definitely agree, and I just love the fact that you're actually walking by faith and not just talking about it. And
Mhm.
with that, because I know when you're in on that faith journey, sometimes you have to wear a variety of hats just to shift and transform through like the ups and downs of the journey, and not just
Mhm.
the journey, but the business. Which experiences would you say have been the most transformative for you when you took this on?
I had it probably the most transformative was I had to lay some people off at one point during
Mm,
our journey, and that was awful because I always tell people if you've never laid someone off, what you're basically saying is that you didn't do a bad job. You're not. There's nothing really to try to improve upon. I just don't have enough money, and so I took an inventory of all the people that work here, and you were the most expendable. So I'm gonna have to let you go. And you'll say it different. You can do it, but at the end of the day, that's what someone's hearing, and that's awful.
mhm.
And I had to go through that, and I that was probably the worst experience that I'd had, was to do that because it was rough sitting across from somebody that's doing a good job that you've been working with for a while, and tell them just sorry, we don't have a job for you anymore because of financial things that are outside of their control. That was tough. That was really tough. There was a lot of sleepless nights between the time where we knew that we were going to have to do that and the time I actually made the announcement, and then talking with the staff and just being open and honest about where we were at financially, why that was the decision that was made, and what to do moving forward. So that was probably the biggest transformational stuff over the last 10 years, as far as just a specific moment that hit, because that one was hurt. That one hurt. That one was rough.
Yeah, I can definitely say that that is not a great experience. And for those who would probably have felt that they were going to be secure after the buy-in and things like that, that could have been like traumatizing for them. So yeah, that's definitely a life lesson. Um, and speaking of like impact, what what would you say kind of inspired you behind the work of establishing like technology centers when it comes to like your data or marketing background?
Gotcha. A lot of that came from just the military has a term, it's called force multiplier. It's just being
Mhm.
able to using technology or some kind of mechanical assistance to perform better than just you could by yourself. And I think
Okay.
technology leveraged correctly can really help. So, force multiplier, if you think about it from a military thing, a tank allows 2 or 3 men to be inside of a tank, and they can take on hundreds of other people and fight effectively. Now, if you put 3 against 100, just in a normal battle, it wouldn't work. And so technology does the same thing. If you know how to use it, if you know how to use it for your advantage, you can really see those kinds of growth that happen. And that's where tech, data, all of those other pieces come in.
Okay, so now I have a random question, and I definitely love that you're saying that, because now we're in this trend of AI, when it
Mhm.
comes to tech and data and things like that. What is your take on actually leveraging AI so that you can bring in those pieces of data and make a decision based on how you're marketing or running your business?
Yeah, so AI, I think the biggest mistake people are making with AI a lot is to do it for me type of relationship where they're like, hey, just do this work for me. Make this email sound nicer. Make it do this. Make it do this. And so it just treats it on a one-sided. Using AI to actually dig into data and do iterative processing, just asking question after question as you're digging in, that's really where you unlock it. And it's a very powerful tool because it can take multiple data sources, multiple things very quickly and do analysis and other things on them, where I would have to manually write out code or write out some kind of statement to join data, be able to pull things in, run reports. It can do those for you with more natural language. So as long as if you take the time to learn how the tool works, it
Mhm.
really does a great job of helping and growing. Just don't fall into the trap of thinking it's just going to be your answer for everything, and you're just going to type in a few prompts and it's going to take off and just do all your things for you, because that's not going to be a differentiator. It's going to break down, and you're going to just sound like everybody else in the space.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with you on that, because what I tell people is that I have I've basically trained the AI to be like my custom business partner. So what
Mm-hmm.
I have it to do is to ask me questions so I can actually find the gaps of my thinking process when it comes to marketing and strategy. Because a lot of people are trying to use AI more so to replace people,
Right.
will basically replace relationship versus using AI from a perspective of enhancement. So I definitely love the fact that you're saying that, um because AI is really meant to help you save time, not
Mm-hmm.
replace a person.
That's correct. And it's, you can, again, it's that multiplier, right? You can use it to help you make you more efficient, to do things quicker and more quickly. It's just like any other technology that comes along. When used correctly, it'll help us. Just don't become a slave to it, to where suddenly it's driving everything. And whenever Amazon went down a couple of weeks ago, Chat GPT was one of the things went down, and suddenly the world was just, oh my gosh, how would we ever write emails again, or whatever they have been using the AI for. It was almost like a real, there was fear, there was terror in people. So staying in
And,
front of that.
and I thought it was funny because, like, my company, we use AI in a lot of things, and we didn't even know things had shut down until we started getting phone calls from people, because we were using
Mhm.
AI, and the way we have our system set up with AI, everything was still functioning. And we don't we I use ChatGPT, but I don't use it as like our main source of AI. So
Right.
all of our stuff was functioning with no
Hmm.
problems. We didn't run into anything. And somebody was like, ChatGPT is down. And I was like, huh? I was like, what you mean? And I had to go actually look it up to find out. And I was like, oh, well, we're okay.
Yeah.
And that's why I tell people that technology can be flawed. There will be some hiccups along the way. So you can't put everything in one basket when it comes to technology. And you still have to know how to properly function and work it manually just in case something actually happens.
Right. You don't want to, yes, exactly. And I think that's really good advice you can give to people, because a lot of times they're just, if that one tool falls out of their toolbox, suddenly they can't get anything done. But
Right.
and even if you were all in on Chat GPT, being an entrepreneur, being innovative, being somebody who's going to be a problem solver, not just sit there and go, well, we'll just wait till it comes back up. Being an active participant in your own destiny kind of thing is a huge, huge value to have as being a business owner.
And so because I want to get back to like your background and like data and analytics. So when it comes to that, and when it also comes to marketing, what kind of results or ROIs that do you kind of recommend businesses to kind of focus on for growth or measuring growth?
So there's a couple of different things. It depends on the business.
Hmm.
So if you're going to be an e-commerce store, I mean, one of the easiest ones is, well, how many orders am I placing? How many
Right.
orders are coming? And then looking, and then being a little bit more detailed about that. Like, where did that customer come from? Did they find me on a Google search? Did they just come to my website? Did they find me on a social campaign? Did they find me on an ad? And when you're working with a good marketing company, though, all of those things are trackable data, and they should show you how to be able to pull those same things from Google Analytics, some other background tool that's there, not just always put it in a dashboard, which sometimes can hide some of that data, or at least
Hmm.
make it look a little prettier than it may actually be in reality. And then the other thing that we always do is I call my customers and talk to them, because I don't know what's happening inside your business. Everything could look great on my side, and you're like, but this just isn't happening. I'm not sitting, the people who are calling aren't booking appointments, or the people who are showing up and doing the download aren't turning into a customer. So I always have to know what happens on that next part, because unless we're fully integrated with your sales staff, with your CRM, with your order fulfillment, we don't know all those. So asking those questions along the way is a huge part. So that way it turns it into a conversation whenever you're talking about a campaign effectiveness, rather than just, hey, the data looks good on our side. And then you'll hear Mark, and I know you've got a marketing background. So sometimes the kind of the big paintbrush is you just say, oh, it was good branding. People know about you now. Well, look, I could have spent a lot less money and let people know about me than doing it that way. So I don't think that's ever a good excuse for a bad campaign. The data should point you to somewhere.
And I definitely love the fact that you said that, because I remember probably about 6 or 7 years ago, I ran into that issue with a client because we were doing a lot and getting people at the top of their funnel, but people were
Mm-hmm.
not reaching the bottom of their funnel. And they were like, well, we're seeing that all of this is coming through and we're getting people, but we're not getting clients. So that's when we kind of transitioned to doing like digital ecosystems, of looking at the whole process of their marketing and sales funnel versus just looking at the beginning of the funnel. Because even if we're doing the right work at the beginning, if they don't
Mm-hmm.
have things set up in the middle or at the end for sales, then they're not going to reap the benefit of the work that we've done from the very beginning.
Right. And then on the other side is the salesperson too, right? Like, so you bring somebody there and they're in the middle of the funnel as a salesperson doing their job about following through, because they're still people. The
Right.
tech doesn't do all of the work for you. So you still got to remember there are people involved in there and have them work together there. So
Yeah, and I definitely say that, because I feel that when it comes to marketing, a lot of times we don't do KPIs on our people to see how well they are actually working inside of our funnel. And I feel like that's a key aspect that a lot of people overlook when they're measuring
mhm.
KPIs. Um, what kind of closing rate this person has, or how many people this person is actually seeing from the funnel and things like that. And in comparison, you'll see like who's seeing the most people, or who's seeing the fewest amount of people, and who's actually converting the most people out of the number of people that they're actually seeing.
Well, and the other thing is your sales cycle. If it normally takes 3 to 6 months for you for a person to come from a decision to actually turn into a customer for you, just because you
Mhm.
do a marketing campaign or a digital campaign, that's not necessarily going to make that cycle any shorter, because there's still going to have to be that fact finding part of the journey. There's still going
Mhm.
to be questions. There's still going to be other things. You're just bringing people there. Or if you do find those one offs that are ready to make immediate decisions, if you've got good marketing set up, you'll be able to capture them. But it's not just a shortcut. It's a way of, again, just getting more of those opportunities like you alluded to. And then what is that closing? Because the more people I get a chance to, the more people close based on the same closing rate.
And I definitely agree with that. And I what would you say is, when it comes to that, would be for for people to actually look at, when it comes to that, what would you say would be like that, the average cycle for marketing, to make sure that you're getting those touch points with the person for conversion. Because some people try to think that they can do it all in like 2 weeks or 30 days,
Mm-hmm.
and they're upset that they're not getting like that popcorn or instant conversion. So would you
Mm-hmm.
say that a great time frame? I say not. I always tell clients 90 days, but
Yep,
would you say
3 months.
should it be longer or shorter?
No, 3 months is a standard thing that we tell people. 3 months is it's going to take me 3 months to show you actionable results from anything that you're doing with us, because we're changing everything around in your marketing, because we're something that's new there. If you're an emergency plumber and you always deal with whenever there's a toilet backed up in your house, well, that's not
Mhm.
going to take 3 months. I don't know how often how often someone's going to need to call you in your area, but you want to be ready for whenever they're calling, going, "Help! My toilet's backing up all over my bathroom floor." That's not going to take 90 days. That's an
Right.
immediate thing. They're going to see something. They're going to pick up their phone. They're going to do a search, or they're going to just ask Google or Siri or some other AI assistant to make a phone call for them. You want to make sure that you show up there. But most of the time, yeah, there's going to be some thoughtfulness. There's going to be some comparison. There's going to be some other things, and people want to make sure that they're making a good buying choice. So yeah, I'm on board with you, Rickdrieka, that 90 days is a definitely is a good mark that we look there.
Yeah, because I know too many times I have people who come to me and they have the expectations of trying to get people in under 90 days. And my first question is, if you want people under 90 days, what's your ad budget looking like?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the only way you're going to be able to reduce something that you're originally doing organically
Mm-hmm.
to get in front of more people multiple times.
We always joke that there's anything's possible if you've got Coca-Cola money. So if you got an ad budget like Coca-Cola, we can do anything. But most people don't.
And I promise a lot of people don't realize how much money Coca-Cola spends on ads, but they also make so much money off
Mm-hmm.
of off of their stuff, because they a lot of people think it's just the Coke, but Coca-Cola makes so much money off of other products that are a
Mm-hmm.
part of the Coca-Cola brand. And it's not
Yep.
just the soda Coca-Cola.
Right. Yeah. It's all the licensing. It's all those other things that are there. But Coca-Cola still runs ads today, even though everybody in the world knows what Coca-Cola is and who they are and what's there. But it turns into a crowded space. So you just need to keep reminding people that why they chose to drink Coke in the first place. And if they haven't, then why they should probably give it a shot. So
And
it's,
then
even big brands like that still spend money on marketing and advertising.
right. And then I feel like around the holidays, it's like their ad budget is like
Oh,
crazy. Especially Christmas. Like if I see that Coca-Cola bear,
you got to get the polar bear, Drika. You got to get the polar bear.
so they definitely make sure that they're in front of people often. I definitely see a Coke ad at least once a day.
Yes.
Um so with that, looking ahead, and we're looking if we're looking at marketing trends and we're looking at like the changes in technology, would you say that there are some things that you're excited about that are changing coming into 2026?
One of the things that's happening on a lot of the ad platforms is they're also implementing AI on the back end,
Hmm.
looking for customer acquisition, for targeting, for those kinds of things. I think it's going to be a neat opportunity for people who understand how the technology works to kind of get a little bit more under the hood, to be able to do some more tweaking and to really make a campaign go more. Because a
Hmm.
lot of those platforms, I mean, Google, any of them, you don't have to be a marketer to advertise on Google or Facebook or any of these things. You just click a button and there's an AI wizard that'll come up and it'll happily ask you a few questions and put together something and say, just, type in your credit card number here. We've got the rest. And that'll work. It'll generate some activity, but folks who really understand how that works and can get under the hood to make some customizations, to ask the right questions of clients, to make sure that they're in the right position to get started, that's really given us some even more opportunity for people to be an integral part of that marketing. Unfortunately, it's going to take a failure or two on somebody's part before they're like, man, this has got to be easier. It's just not working as good as I think. And then they're coming to you going, I've already spent all this money. What can you do with what I've got left? I'm like, oh, I wish you'd come to me at the beginning. We could have done a lot more. But we'll do our best to help out. And so I really think that trend switch is really going to be a pretty exciting time to be in our industry, because I don't think it's going to replace us. I think it's just going to make people more valuable.
I definitely know from experience that it's not going to replace us. And I have a quick aha moment of
All right.
what happened
Share.
with Google Ads this week alone. So I have a client, and I already told the client that your ad budget is too low for Google Ads. I typically tell clients, if you're going to do a Google Ads, you need to have at least $1,000 a month ad budget. Anything under that is not worth it.
Right.
And so their ad budget was like under $500, and they wanted to run Google Ads. And the budget that the campaign was set up in Google Ads, and what the Google AI did was, because their budget was not large enough and it wasn't effective enough to actually get impressions, it changed the keywords. So originally they had 20 keywords, and it dropped it down to 5 keywords to try to optimize the ad campaign. And then after it did that, the keywords that it optimized, it made sense, but no one searches the way the keywords were actually listed, because it was like direct keywords versus like a description keyword. And it was not, the campaign wasn't doing anything. And I was like, that was my aha moment, that even though all of these platforms are embedding this, you still need that human touch to go back and look at it.
And that's again where someone will come to you and say, well, but why isn't this working? What's going on? And those keywords it optimized for are going to be because they found keywords that also were cheap enough that would fit in there, which was why they didn't match, because it wasn't talking like someone who knew what they were talking about. And so the search volume is super low. Yeah, it gets slippery when you have to show people. And then there's also trying to do that with kindness, so that someone doesn't feel that they made a dumb choice, or to also make sure that they understand and believe you. Because it could be just like, well, I think you're just making up some story to match whatever you're wanting to tell me to make me spend money with you. I'm like, well, no, I'm just, you asked me, I'm here. Exactly. Back to that. You got to make a few mistakes, have a few bumps to be able to go, oh, I think I need to hire a professional.
Yeah, they definitely, because they called me and they were showing me, and I walked them through and explained what happened. And they was like, so I basically wasted money. I was like, yeah. I was like, you could have used it in a different way. And I was telling them that if with that type of budget, I would have took them over to YouTube ads, because they would have got a better bang for their buck versus trying to do Google ads. But in the new year, we're switching them over to YouTube ads.
There you go.
Because of what they experienced with trying to use the Google AI ads. So yeah, that was definitely a learning experience this week.
Or I'll tell people, go buy $50 $10 gift cards, and just put a message out that for every purchase you'll give them a $10 gift card. That way you've got a acquisition cost of $10. It'll work way better than trying to waste all that money on Google, and you're only paying for customers. So if your budget's too low, you got to get more creative with what you're doing with it. And like your story illustrates, that just letting technology try to do it, or the AI just do it for you, doesn't always yield that win at the end.
Yeah, definitely. And I definitely have enjoyed this conversation, and I feel like it could go on on and on. But I definitely want to not make it so long-winded that the listeners go in and out of trying to get bits and pieces and snippets of this podcast episode. But for those who are listening and they're wanting to build like a meaningful brand around marketing with creativity and technology, and even leadership as a entrepreneur, what advice would you give them?
A couple of different things. Authenticity. If you don't know something, don't pretend you do, because you'll get found out somehow. It'll either be through a campaign not working well. Someone's going to ask you a question. You're going to feel real dumb because they're going to put you in a corner. So just, if you don't know something, say, I don't know. I'll get back to you. That's always a really smart one. Because then at least you're saying, hey, I don't have the answer right in front of me, but it's important enough that I'm going to do the work to go after it and get it. And the second, and out of that authenticity is also just, it's like what my mom always said, don't ever tell a lie, because then you don't have to keep track of everything. If you always tell the truth, it's a lot easier. So just be honest. People make mistakes, things happen, things don't always work out the same. It's not a tried and true formula on marketing, on leadership, on anything. So just being humble enough to say, I made a mistake, I didn't do this right, is also a really important part that's there. Because if you're not willing to take those kind of hits every now and then, or that client calling and saying, are you telling me that I wasted all my money? Yeah, sometimes you got to say that. And so if you can't have those conversations, it's probably not the best area for you to get into, because it happens more than we want to admit, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I definitely tell everybody, like, marketing is not going to be 100% correct every time. So
Right.
I agree with you on that. And Bill, this has definitely and truly been an incredible conversation, and I definitely love the conversation. Thank you so much for your transparency, your wisdom, and also sharing your spirit-led adventure with us, because it definitely was spirit-led. And how for the listeners who are actually listening into the episode, how could they connect with you or follow you later?
Sure. So you 599haircut.com, 599haircut.com is a great opportunity for that. It's got a quick story about some marketing that I walked into. It's got a free download. And when I say free download, it's 100% free. There's no retargeting, tracking, email address giving. You just download it. Gives you an opportunity to read a little bit about it, talk about how you're positioning yourself in the marketplace. And then there's a link at the end of that PDF to get on my calendar to have some conversation directly with me, just to run stuff by. Think of it like a short mini mastermind session. On that same website, if you scroll down a little bit more, there is a deeper dive that you can do. I do ask for an email or contact there, because we're giving away quite a bit more on that one. That's all optional if you want to. But 599haircut.com is a great place to get started and learn more about Element 502 and storying, marketing, and all the fun things that we do.
Awesome. And thank you to all of our listeners for joining in on this episode of the Enricher Business Circle. And remember that the most powerful element in your career or in your life is one that aligns with your skills and with your spirit. Until next time, keep enriching your passion and your purpose.